Hey, what is up, YouTube? The first weekend of the 7-star Greninja raid event has now passed. We learned a little bit from this weekend as far as what are some of the best builds to bring into the raid. So I'm going to go recap the builds that I showed you guys about a week ago. Which one of them worked, which ones of them never to bring at all, and which ones maybe require a little bit of support. But if you guys do find this video informative, do please go ahead and subscribe. Leave a like on the video. I'm going to go ahead and bring us over to PowerPoint so we can get looking at those builds. I did make a few adjustments, and let's see what they were. All right, guys, so here we are in PowerPoint again, looking at the Greninja raid event and some of the Pokemon that we can use against it. So we're just going to go ahead and recap here. So the last weekend that it was here, or this past weekend here, January 27th through the 29th. So that's already kind of over. This video is going up on the 30th. It will be returning again February 10th through the 12th. And of course, now we have a lot more information about Greninja as we've been able to experience it. So it is a Poison Tera as usual. It also has Water and Dark moves. So it's going to be weak to Ground and Psychic type moves. It's going to have the ability Protein, so no Battle Bond here. As far as its physical move set, we know it has Gunk Shot and Night Slash, as well as special moves of Hydro Pump and Ice Beam. And at the beginning of the raid, it will use a double team and throw out Toxic Spikes. So anytime you faint and have to come back into the battlefield, you're going to be hit by Toxic Spikes. It will also use double team a couple times as the timer goes down. Usually uses it once at the beginning. One's kind of at about half health, not half health, sorry, about halfway through the timer, maybe 60%. And then another time as it gets down to about 25% of the timer. That may vary a little bit, but it will use at least 3 of them throughout the time unless you're able to one-shot it before it gets to that next part of the timer. So guys, I do want to ask that you do subscribe. Go ahead and join our Discord, the Shiny Squad. The link will be in the description. There I hosted several of these Greninja raids off stream so that everybody in the Discord is able to get their hands on Greninja and have a little bit of fun also farming the event, as we did farm it on Saturday and Sunday when I did not stream. So you can gain access to that as well as shinies that I give away, and just all in all, a pretty good community of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet players and people who love Pokemon in general and want to have fun chatting with each other. You can also raid with us. I will be streaming this when the raid comes back around on February 10th on Twitch and YouTube, so you can join us there, or you can join the Discord and you'll know when we're going to have some other events also going on in Discord off of stream. All right, so we're going to look at a couple builds here that are great for soloing. So there's 2 Pokemon that are actually pretty good for this. The first one is Vaporeon. So this one's pretty similar to the Slowbro build, right? So Vaporeon is a water type Pokemon. Anywhere you see it says the word was in parentheses with something else, that means I made an alteration from the last time I made a video on this subject. So its ability, you're going to want obviously Water Absorb. For its moveset, we've got Calm Mind to increase our special defense and special attack. Acid Armor there to increase our physical defense. Stored Power to do our damage, and Aqua Ring is a really good move here because this allows us to regain some health. And basically, once you build up your 3 Acid Armors and about 3 Calm Minds, and you can go all the way up to 6 depending on your timer and how many people are doing it. If you're doing it online, obviously you don't need the full 6 Calm Minds there to get the most damage because you're going to have other people doing damage as well. But Aqua Ring will basically allow you to mitigate any damage unless he crits you. If he crits you, then you're going to get a little less of that health back, and you might have to do a heal chair at some point, but that's okay. So we used to have the Twisted Spoon here. The Covert Cloak is definitely the best because that'll prevent you from getting poisoned. So when it hits you with Gunk Shot and you've got that Acid Armor up at ×3, it barely moves your health, and you don't have to worry about getting poisoned. So we do have a Modest Nature with 252 HP, 252 Special Defense. Next up, we've got Slowbro. Now this build has been around for quite some time as it was useful during the time that Cinderace was in raid, so you guys should probably already know this pretty well. It is pretty effective. There is a few changes from Cinderace, however, so we're running the Psychic Tera as usual. The ability here does not matter at all. We've got Nasty Plot. That's going to give us +2 to our special attack. Iron Defense will give us +2 to our defense. stored power there. It's going to be our nuke to basically do as much damage as possible. And then we've got slack off here because Greninja will hit you quite a bit, and those night slashes, if they land crits, can be pretty painful. So you might need to slack off here and there to recover some of that health. Most of the other stuff, the normal night slashes that don't crit, once you've got your iron defenses up, basically do nothing, even though they're super effective. We're looking here at a life orb, or you could also go covert cloak. Now life orb will be more damage. Maybe if you're soloing it, you're going to take that risk. But if you're playing online, perhaps a covert cloak will be a better option. Modest nature, 252 HP and 252 special attack. You should have already seen this build. And in fact, I've already got this build up on the channel, so you can go check it out. The footage there is against Cinderace, but basically the same principle applies with Greninja, except with Greninja, he kind of resets your stats pretty early, so you can just sit there and use a couple iron defenses to make yourself a little more tanky to take those first few hits, and then get a slack off on the turn that he resets all your stats, and then just get back into doing your iron defenses and your nasty plots. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about some Pokemon that works really well in a team setting, so online or with your friends. So Gastrodon here is great. It does need some support, of course, from other Pokemon, but Gastrodon can hit pretty hard. It can stay alive for very long. It is pretty bulky. So again, you've got that water and ground typing. We're going to go with a ground Tera here. For some reason, I had it set to water the last time, so I'm sorry about that mistake. Storm Drain, the Storm Drain there will basically make it to where anytime you get hit by a water type move, it will buff your special attack. This will come in handy here in a build that we're going to talk about in just a minute. We're going to have Earth Power there for damage, Acid Armor, and Amnesia to make ourselves a little more bulky. You can use as many of those as you want. Usually I go 1 or 2 of each, depending on how I'm feeling in the raid. And then you've got Recover there to recover your health. We're going to be running the Soft Sand here to increase our ground type attacks. Running a Modest Nature here with 252 HP and 252 special attack. So similar to the ones for soloing, but of course Gastrodon does need a little bit of help, and that help can come in the form of a Clodsire. So Clodsire here is a poison ground type Pokemon. We're running a ground Tera with the ability Water Absorb. You can use this a little more offensively or a little more supportingly. It kind of depends on what you want to do. So we've got Acid Spray there to lower the special defense of the opposing Pokemon by 2 stages. Chilling Water will lower their attack by 1 stage. However, Chilling Water has another benefit. If you have a Gastrodon on your team, you can use Chilling Water on Gastrodon. It'll do nothing to it as far as damage, but it will give it a +1 to its special attack. So you can have that as a little bit of fun. You've got Mud Slap there if you're playing a little bit more of a supportive role and you want to help your teammates. Maybe they're a little more vulnerable, and so that Mud Slap will help make Greninja less accurate, which is great since he does double team and makes it harder for you to hit him. So why not make it harder for him to hit you? We've got Earth Power there as our damage dealing move. We are running the Assault Vest here with a Calm Nature. So 252 HP and that 252 special defense. You can divide that up. You can add a little bit, take a little bit out of that and put it into special attack if you want. I've got mine here set as more of a bulky, supportive, defensive Pokemon that can basically help others set up by using Acid Spray or Chilling Waters into the Gastrodon. Next up, we've got Toxtricity. This is more of an interesting choice. So Toxtricity is a poison electric type Pokemon. We've got a Tera type here of Electric. Technician is the ability we're running here. So that's going to basically buff up all our attacking moves that do less than 60 damage. So we've got Acid Spray there again to bring down that special defense. We've got Snarl to bring down the opponent's special attack if he's using a lot of special attacks there. You've got Thunderbolt, it's kind of your main damage dealing move, and we've got Nuzzle. Nuzzle is great because it's like Thunder Wave, but it does a little bit of damage and it works through the shield. So you can do Nuzzle turn 1 to basically maybe help your allies out a little bit. Maybe they survive a few extra turns because Greninja gets paralyzed and decides, I can't attack for a couple turns or whatever it may be. Of course, there's some RNG there, but you can also use it as soon as he puts up the shield. Now, there's no ways to directly buff your damage output other than through Acid Spray, and Snarl is great for your defensive purposes, but it's a pretty decent Pokemon. And again, I've got some footage of this Pokemon in action if you guys do want to see it. We're running the Assault Vest here as well as a Calm Nature with 252 in HP, and we've got some investment there in Special Defense. You could also invest a little bit in Defense there. Again, you could divide the Special Defense there into a little bit of Defense if you want to. Next up, we've got Pokemon that are specifically for supports. Now, some of these Pokemon are amazing. I found Klefki to be basically the greatest Pokemon to bring into a raid online if I notice that we've got attackers like Slowbro, Vaporeon, Clodsire. Gastrodon Klefki is really great at making sure everybody kind of stays alive a little bit there, a little bit longer, and can also deal a little bit of damage. I wouldn't say it's a whole lot, but you know, it can help out the team, maybe get a little killing blow there at the end if it needs to. So it is a fairy and steel type Pokemon. What's great about this is the steel typing prevents it from basically taking any damage at all or being affected by poison. So if it was another fairy type Pokemon, obviously that would be a bigger deal, but since it's fairy steel, it neglects all that poison damage. For the moveset here, we are rocking Psychic, obviously is our damage dealing perk. We've got Light Screen and Reflect. We used to have Metal Sound here for some reason. I don't know, I don't know why I put that in there, but anyways, we've got Reflect there. I was assuming it was going to be specifically a special attacker, but we now know that it is a mixed attacker. So Light Screen plus Reflect makes for a great support set. You want a Light Screen turn 1 because he will guaranteed hit you with a Hydro Pump, as it's what's going to do the most damage to you. So if you can set up Light Screen with Prankster, you'll be able to mitigate some of that damage, and then Reflect turn 2, and you can start going into Calm Mind or Heal Cheering, as well as using Psychic here and there as needed. We're going to be rocking the Light Clay here with a Calm Nature, 252 HP, and that investment there in defense, you can also mix that in with special defense. Again, it's up to you. It's up to you how it's feeling. For me, Klefki never went down in any of the raids, so I think this stat investment is perfect. Next up, we've got Rotom Wash. I've used it, I think, 1 or 2 different times. It's not as good as Klefki. Klefki is just kind of really bulky with the resisting of the poison and setting up the dual screens. Of course, this can set up dual screens too. Yeah, there we go. I do have Light Screen and Reflect set up on there. Nasty Plot there to buff your special attack, Discharge to do damage. You've got Helping Hand there, so you can use that to support your allies, or you can run Light Screen and Reflect and then still keep the Nasty Plot and the Discharge there so you can do some damage. You've got Light Clay here so that your Light Screen and Reflect stay up longer. Same thing with Klefki. So Modest Nature here, 252 HP. We've got a little bit of investment here in Special Attack because it can do some damage. You could also just put that into Defense or Special Defense. We have a little bit more allocation there as well. Pokemon that I suggested before, but now I can say don't use. We're going to start here with Umbreon. Now, I might get some hate in the chat because Umbreon is obviously pretty useful. It is pretty bulky. It can stay alive. You don't need to Terrestrialize him at all because all your moves here are supporting moves, so he won't even get the chance to do so. But we went with Light Screen and Reflect, well as either Screech or Fake Tears here with Helping Hand. Now, the reason why I say don't use Umbreon, while he is very bulky and can survive for a long time, it doesn't have a way to attack. So for those 5 or 6 turns that the shield is up while your other teammates are buffing themselves up to break down that shield, Umbreon is basically doing nothing but Helping Hands and Heal Cheering. So it's just not as good as, say, Klefki, which can do some damage, or Rotom Wash that can also do some damage and still do the screen stuff that Umbreon can do. Hydreigon, a lot of people were talking about this as a possibility, obviously because of that special attack. Buffed up by Nasty Plot. The problem with that is that Greninja does have Ice Beam, so it basically destroys you. Now, of course, if you've got some screen set up and you've got some special defense bulkiness in there, you could probably survive, but honestly, there are better options. You could just go with Vaporeon or Slowbro, Gastrodon, Clodsire. There are definitely way better options. So I'm not going to talk too much further here on Hydreigon. Next up was Lucario. We did originally suggest Lucario, but I brought Lucario into the raid a couple times just to see if there was maybe some variability. But I basically got 2-shot by Hydro Pump. Now, we didn't have any screen setters up day 1 outside of me whenever I was running Klefki. So with a screen setter, maybe you get some more duration out of Lucario, but again, there are just better options, right? You do have Vaporeon, you do have Slowbro, and a lot of you have Slowbro from Cinderace, so why build a new Pokemon just to have it basically be inferior in one way or another? So again, Lucario pretty much passed there. And then Iron Hands, I did see a couple people try to bring this, and they were the first Pokemon that fainted. So Iron Hands was a good idea in theory. And of course, if you had 3 Screeching Umbreons or something like that on your team, and then you wanted to basically carry with Iron Hands, I guess it could do you good, but that's a pretty ideal scenario, and we all know that 7-star raids aren't exactly always the ideal scenario. And with all that being said, guys, I'm looking forward to the next weekend that Greninja comes around. I farmed up quite a bit of candy. I had no XL candy, and now I have over 600 from doing this raid over and over again, and it's much more rewarding than the 6-star raids and 5-star raids as far as candy and vitamins and stuff like that goes. It did get a couple ability patches, did get plenty of ability capsules, so it is definitely worth having one of these builds to take on Greninja next time when it comes around. So again, guys, do please subscribe, leave a like on the video, maybe join the Discord, or consider supporting me on Patreon. With all that being said, guys, thanks for coming by and watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.